that time of the month again when we look at the month ahead, and the month ahead for April, of course, which is always inaugurated around about the 20th or the 21st of the month before, which in this case has been the autumn equinox just a couple of days ago. So welcome to the new season, and a reminder of the new season might be a reminder of what we expect in the weather here in Cape Town during the month of April. Just to remind you that as far as astrology sees it, it does look like the next quarter, the next 3 months, will see the arrival again of some dramatic storms in Cape Town that produce less water than we expect, just like in 2017, but perhaps 1 or 2 more of the storms that we saw during that year. So hopefully things will move a little bit better this year towards more rain later in the year. More about that as the year goes by. So at least we will eventually start seeing the weather shifting during this time. There are a few things beginning to shift in even the political scene, because although it has been a little unsettling over the last month or so as various political parties are drawing their lines and so on, what is apparent in the chart is that many things are beginning to get a little bit more peaceful looking. Some things are evening out and getting sorted out, which is why they're going to be a little bit more peaceful looking. Not peaceful in the sense of less conflict, but certainly more working things out, which is something that we can look forward to. Even with the contentious issue of land and the endless hyping and reworking of the various statements that people have made about it, we will even see some resolution with regards to that. At least some clear drawing on terms and people getting more understanding of what's going on with that, as well as with other areas in government as well. Certainly, the chart continues to look like the government makes an increasing effort to improve its image and to improve the image of the ruling party. So we will see more following in the likes of, say, the suspension of the tax commissioner Tom Moyani a couple of days ago. We will see more in that light during the month of April. So we can expect some things to improve around that regard as well. One of the issues that the government has not really addressed very well lately is the issue of women in power, and there have been some movement, some sideways movement and some removal of some people in power, which has actually led to some inequality in the government, which still needs to be addressed, and I think we'll see more about that during this month ahead as well. It's an important month for South Africa because, of course, April is our birthday month, but we will actually say more about that in the next month ahead, when we really are already looking much later into the month. We'll talk more about South Africa's birthday at that time. In the meanwhile, we are going to see some improvement with regards to the financial situation that really at first means dealing with the increase in VAT, and then some other concessions and improvements that happen perhaps in response to the general dis-ease about the increase of VAT. So I think there are going to be some on the larger financial side, and perhaps on the international financial side, some news to balance the challenge of the new VAT regime. So we are managing still to develop our optimism further, not in the kind of Cyril Ramaphosa spring, that like any spring, political spring, is overinflated and then gets back down to reality. But beyond that, as we actually start working more and more with things, not just the government or the president, but we have a very active society, and as we now begin to feel able to work more things out, we're going to see a general kind of optimism improving, not simply based on government, but based on people beginning to feel for themselves that they have greater access to democracy. So I think for us as South Africans, the the benefit to get from the spring is not to leave it up to the politicians and the government, but to realize for us it has reopened the democratic space and the space where we South Africans can try and build a new nation. Hopefully that's what we're going to go forward to our next birthday with, and more about that towards the end of the month. In the meanwhile, what about our personal horoscopes? So for Aries this month, it's a month where you really need to be concentrating on domestic matters and sorting things out peacefully over there, because professional things are going ahead and you need to be able to get the support and help of people around you. There are opportunities coming up that will allow you to do that, and you need to be a little bit careful of the strings that come along with that. It's going to be a month of I'll scratch your back and you'll scratch mine. You hopefully can call in some favors, otherwise you might have to set up some favors, but it's a really good time to be getting some help. Things are really beginning to work, and at work, if you act with some courage and perseverance and invest a little bit of energy and your own resources, people will be even more willing to help you. So that is a great opportunity to go ahead at work. Courage is easy for you, Aries, so this is just the time to go ahead with it. Do what you can to make that happen. In your personal life, that help is about cooperation and making sure that you're expressing what your needs are, that you are feeling supported, but of course at the same time you're working on the common goals for the relationship, because a time of establishing more harmony is a time to go forward there too. So for Taurus, this could be quite an exciting month. There's new places to explore, new opportunities to visit new places or encounter new people. Bring all sorts of new things into your life this month. It's not going to be plain sailing all the way. Some of it's going to require a little bit of careful planning and careful strategizing. That's also because you're finding yourself still dependent on other people this month, and that is still going to help you get to some of your goals, so that's not really such a problem. It does mean that in some situations in your working environment, you're going to have to take a step back or accept a limitation or defeat. But for the rest, it's really all about timing. Knowing when to act and when to take charge of a situation is really going to be helpful. As I said, you're still dependent on someone else for resources in your working environment, and because you have to maintain that, there's also a warning in your chart this month not to get caught into being manipulated or controlled because of that. Have clear boundaries and base it on that arrangement you have with that person. There's lots of gain happening in your personal life as well. New love or love from new friends or refreshment in your existing relationship. Certainly a great opportunity to do something about that. There is a challenge in the area of friendship, and that means not making sacrifices that you shouldn't be making at this time. But mostly new relationships bring good new things. Geminis, well, this is your go-ahead month and you're ready to make it all happen and go charging ahead, but it turns out there's a whole lot of other stuff that just has to be done. And so you've got to be careful not to succumb to impatience, haste, and making things happen when they're not ready to happen. Don't be alarmed if things are not going as fast as you would like them to be going. And in fact, focusing on the present might help you discover what you hadn't noticed before. At work, the same thing applies. Look in other areas instead of trying to charge ahead. Look who can be helpful, what can be helpful, what resources that you actually need that you could perhaps get from other people. It is important to be clear about who are the most useful, helpful people in your team or in your environment at the moment. In your relationship life, well, you also need to be a little bit more careful about how other people might be affecting you or your relationship. In your friendships and relationships, impatience remains the challenge, just like it is everywhere else in your life at the moment. So rather spend that energy through doing new things together, through adventure and shared pleasure as a way of bonding with someone you love. Old friends might also be helpful in getting a sense of stay in the present, stay focused, and create good new experiences together. So, Cancerians, although you are usually pegged as the one who always wants to be safe and sound and at home and not doing anything terribly exciting, this month is going to be a little bit different in that regard. You've got the ability to be idealistic and have grand plans like the best of us, and this is one of those times when you need to be pursuing some of your grand plans, getting it all on the go. The biggest ideas you've got, this is the time to get them into the world. It's still going to be with people that you love, and it's still going to help your emotional needs to take care of your loved ones and your family, and maybe that's going to be the chance to do a whole bunch of stuff together, because work is not really going in a predictable fashion. There's things going unexpectedly. You're going to have to be more persuasive than you're used to being, because others might not seem as willing to get involved as they usually are. But be charming and take some extra steps, and you'll probably find yourself able to bring in the cooperation of others as well. In your relationships, well, you've got to be careful with your own expectations. It's easy for you to raise your own expectations, and you've also got to be careful that you're not overplaying parental attitude or control in any kind of a way. It's a great time to be doing things together, because this is a time to branch out in all sorts of ways, including in your relationship. Leos, as you go into the second quarter of the year, this is really the time to start taking stock of many things. Some things haven't worked out quite the way that you would have expected them or wanted them to go. You might even feel a little bit disappointed in some areas and with some people, but this is all about cleaning that up in some way. In your personal life, there could be some stock taking that needs to happen. Looking at your friendships and who you've been carrying and how you've allowed yourself to be taken advantage of, things like that. Other than that, you'll find anyway that there are some friends who are just on their own, leaving your orbit, going out into the world, and there will be some lessons of letting go for you during this month as well, not something new for you. But the result of that is a lot more clarity and a lot more focus in your personal life, which will help. In your professional life, a little bit of strategizing is going to be required. You're going to have to be a little bit persuasive in order to get something to happen your way, or someone to work your way, or something like that. But with that little bit of effort, it's going to really be worth it. So get people onto your side, engage in any partnership that you need to, but be strategic. This is a time to make the next step happen. Virgos, although help is what you're always all about, this month is hopefully about others helping you and you getting the opportunity to bring them into that in some way. It's not time to go it alone, it's time to call in the chips, call in the favors, and make sure that people are doing for you, for a change, what you would anyway always do with them. This is the time to make yourself heard. Negotiation skills are probably going to be required in your working environment, and you might even have to adjust your plans and adjust your obligations and so on, because you have to adapt to, you won't be able to do everything that you actually want to do. You might have to put some things aside. But more important than that, with a bit of negotiation and a bit of persuasion, things actually will work out for you. Don't make too many compromises. That's what's important as well. In your personal life, being helpful will get you into situations not unusual for you, and that is making sacrifices where you don't really need to make sacrifices, or getting caught up in something because of feelings of guilt. That's not a healthy emotion in a relationship, and really all you need to be doing at this time is giving emotional support. You don't have to offer any other help other than the willingness to be there, if necessary to be the shoulder to cry on or the cheerleader, whatever it may be. That's the best help that you can give at this time. Librans are going to find a lot of opportunity to get ahead in their working lives this month, but only in some areas of them. In terms of things that need to get done and plans that you've got and all sorts of ways to get it that you already know, and even who you'll need to get to help you. It's not going to be easy to get people to help you because everyone seems to be busy with their own stuff. So what you need to be focusing on this month is your financial life and getting that in order. And you'll find that that's entirely possible to do. This is a great month for getting on top of things, either putting new financial strategies into play or finally turning the corner in some other ones and getting on top of your financial life. That will let you focus on profession and goals and those kind of things in the months ahead once everyone else has finished what they're doing for themselves. In your personal life, that's where a little bit of the selfishness does seem to be unintentionally happening. Your typical Libra social abilities will be at the fore this month, and you'll have lots going on in your personal life. There's lots to do and there's lots of people to see, and that's all good. But you just got to be careful that you don't unintentionally make your partner, your loved ones feel a little bit left out or less important in some way. You know, in some relationships, some friendships, this might be the time also to just tone down how many people you've got going on in your social life. Clean it up. Scorpio, you're definitely showing signs of making progress and going ahead this month. Things are beginning to turn your way. And although it's going to take a little bit of longer time for things to really be happening, the bigger goals to really be happening, there are some immediate gains that you can make right now. It's like the odds are in your favor this month, which means a little output goes a long way and your bigger rewards come along. It's a lucky month. But in order to make that happen, you need to be motivated and you need to put some things into action. Things that look like hassles to you, that don't need to be done, will turn out to be obstacles later on if you don't deal with them. So get on with those as well. That's helping the longer term overall progress, which really is happening for you. In your working life, this is the time to go as hard as you can. There are lots of people who are helping you and who will be able to make sure that you get to your goal, but you still need to be careful about who you trust, which is not something that I probably need to tell you as a Scorpio. In your personal life, this is where you need to take a bit of a break. Hopefully together you can go off and do something fun, or on your own, or if needs be on your own. But this is the time to just bring some new energy into your playtime. New places, new adventures, new people. This is where you need a boost of new energy to fire up the work that needs to be done everywhere else. Sagittarians, this is a month when you're going to have to focus on yourself and what needs to be done, what's important in every way that you can. So that means having to be more selfish where necessary at work. This is not a great time to have to rely on someone. Even if you are having to rely on someone, you're going to feel frustrated and blocked in some kind of a way. The most progress will be made in those areas where you can go it alone and where you just focus on your own stuff. Alternatively, the strategy can be a wait and see one, but generally you can't expect cooperation to be working terribly well, especially since you're in the charge ahead mode. So not unusual for a Sagittarian, but that means you're going to have to find somewhere where you can get that charge ahead mode going. And your personal life is the place to do that. This is a time to be focusing on what you need to do, not on what you expect or want or hope for from other people. In your personal life, in a relationship, that can bring some conflict, and it might be issues of you being selfish and from your point of view feeling frustrated or limited by someone in some kind of way. But this is not the time to create big conflict, because as can often happen, it will be regrettable later down the line. This is the time to diffuse the conflict, so doing fun things together can be a way to do that. Capricorn, this month you're going to have to act with a little bit of determination and even some courage. There are some big changes that need to be made in how you've been going about some things and how you handle the world or present yourself or present your skills, talents or abilities that you offer to the world. The things that you might have to do that you don't normally think of yourself as capable of doing, but this is the time to get that into action. Capricorns famously fear losing face in the eyes of everyone else, and this is a time to make the risk. It really doesn't matter, and you'll probably find opportunities to make use of skills you might not even know that you had. Still, in your work itself, there's not going to be clear progress, sideways progress, filling out the edges. That can be a good thing, or you might just get the opportunity to take a few steps back, deal with the small stuff, wrap up a few things, and consolidate. That's the best way to go ahead at work. In your personal life, you need to lighten up a lot at this time, and it's not going to be hard to do. A little bit of self-indulgence is the way to do it. This could be a good time to be spending a little bit of money on yourself, taking some time off, going away for a weekend, all of that, or even getting involved in something that you would usually mark as childish. Get roped into something, let yourself go. It's going to turn out to be a whole new you. Aquarians, this month is putting shoulder to the wheel. It's going to be a good month to be doing hard work, getting yourself really stuck into what needs to happen and what you need to do. The problem is that you have things that you need to do for others and that you have things that you need to do for you. The others that really matter right now are the family duties and responsibilities that you have. That's nothing new to you, and it looks like you might have to make some more sacrifices in that regard. Probably nothing new to you either over the course of the last year. But balance that out in your working environment by making sure you're not making too many sacrifices. You will have to put a lot of effort into things, but it's going to be really worth it. That does mean focusing on your own stuff and even showing what you're really capable of. This is a time when perhaps you might have to stand up for something or stand your ground. It might even just mean standing up for how you want to do something and how you're going to go ahead, but it's going to be worth it. People will see you in a new kind of way. In your personal life, that's going to show itself as a lot of support from people around you and new relationships coming up as well. Make sure you do take some time off for yourself. This is one of those times Aquarians love spending time on their own to develop their ideas and their creativity. This is one of those times when you'll really benefit from just getting some time away from everyone doing that. Pisces, this is also one of the times when you kind of need to get away from it all and from all those people, at least in your personal life. Either spending time alone and doing your own thing, or spending time with your family, people that you know and love and where you know where you stand. That's going to be great. And in your personal life, it means not getting heavily involved in relationship matters. If you're in a relationship, this is the time to be doing fun things together or exploring new places together, doing things that will kind of re-fire the spark in your relationship. New relationships and existing relationships will benefit from a careful, slow, go with the flow approach from you at this time, because it's just not your time to be focusing on your own personal stuff. It's time to be withdrawing a little bit from people where possible. That might be because in your working environment you're going to need to do pretty much the opposite. As much as you don't like taking charge, if you're working with others or depending on others or anything like that, you'll just find yourself in that situation where you might have to put your foot down or act with leadership. And even if you don't feel like it, faking it can really make it work. You will find more people willing to listen to you at this time in your working environment, and it's possible for some of you that can actually lead to some further advances at work further down the line, so step up. Certainly the equinox is a time for restarting things and tying up old business and getting the new stuff underway. It certainly seems reflected in a lot of what everyone in the various different star sign categories has to do with this month. But the equinoxes are especially important in astrology. And although astrology is usually based on more personal births, times and places of birth, the equinox is really all about the sun. And the kind of astrology we do in this type of forum, we are in fact talking about sun signs. Although astrology itself is not based on the seasons, it certainly depicts our experience of life, like Earth itself, as seasonal. And we go through all sorts of different seasons, not just from spring at the beginning of life to winter at the end of life, but in many different things that we start and do, and things that start and end, both cycles, natural cycles, the 7-year cycle and so on, and our own personal things as well. While our birthdays are often the best time to do one of those tie up the old business and get the new stuff started, seasonal changes are also really important for us to reflect and consider ourselves and the issues that have been relevant to ourselves, and moving on from some of those to the next phase of the year. So I hope you have checked out and signed up on the Facebook page, where you will always see what's happening on the show and what's happening next, and any follow-ups for what's been on the show. And of course that you'll join me next week at the usual time. See you